So in this tutorial, I want to show you how you can use some rendering techniques to create maybe like a sample invite or something like shown. So the key tools that you'll be shown are the pencil tool. So you can see here, pencil tool, nice and easy. The pen tool to fill in some shapes. So you can see if you swap there, you can fill in the shapes. And the brush tool to create different types of brushes. So we'll be looking a little bit at the strokes and the brush files that you can use, as well as the blob tool, which is in here. So that's to fill in shapes. Okay, so let's get started. Alright, so this is what we'll end with, but I'll go through the layers with you. So, as you can see here, this is my initial drawing. So I've actually drawn this by hand and then edited it on the computer and live traced it. So you can see it's very rough and some of the areas are reflected. So I just drew one of those and then copied it over. So if I actually click on the image, you can see the different parts. So you can see that was part of it. The head I drew separately and added it on. So I've added little bits in as I've gone. So once you have your drawing, like so, you lock that and put it at the very top because the rendering will be below. So firstly, to start off, you just pop in a brown for something that's in the background. So if you're sitting on the chair, that's going to be towards the back. So you can see here, it's literally just the pen tool. So to create that, I'd go P for pen, shortcut, and I would just fill in a space. So that would be my first layer. My next layer is highlight. So it looks really funny here, as you can see, so it's better to keep this on. But with my highlights, you can use things like opacity multiply to get a different effect and have a play with that. What I would do is I'd start off using normal, just using a lighter tone of the brown, and then try some different effects to see what works. So to create those lines, I used the pen tool, the brush tool, sorry. And I would just add layers. So you can see that it's on screen, so I can really build up that tone. It's just Command Z to undo that. Okay, then we add some low lights. So again, just added another layer, adding some shadow to build up that tone. So that's sort of my first set. Chair brown, highlights, and low lights. Highlights and low lights, yeah. And then I go and add the base colour. So that's when you can see a huge change. So I've added a flesh tone, a grey for the hair, some brown in the eyes, a little touch of red, just the basic core block colours. And I've called them main block colours. Then I've added in some skin, which looks subtle now, but it's got a blending mode, so you'll see it in the next one. So skin I've separated into three tones, including the base. So I've decided to have a little highlight, which is very subtle, and a low light just to give some depth. Then you can see here, I've added a base colour. For now, I went with a cream. And because those lines before, you could see them, because it's on a blending mode, they actually disappear with the base colour. So that's good. Now you can see it's not too neat. It's quite rough because I'm going to go over that colour with a layer that's higher up, so it's going to cover that anyway. So then there's the smoke. Smoke is really tricky to do the smoke. You can see it's lots of different lines and different depths and stuff. You can go into brushes and try different things. So for example, you might use the maybe let's do that. You might use the brush tool and make a line, and then might play with it and just see what sort of comes out, what effect can you use, what works. Out of the whole thing, the smoke probably took me the longest to do because it was quite fine and detailed. So that's the smoke. And then you've got the red shadow. So you can see in here, I've added just some shadows in there. So I've used the brush tool again on a different blending mode. So in here I've used screen or maybe multiply. So keeping the cross hatching on, you can sort of just go in and fill it in, pretty easy to do. Then I've added a little bit of detail, so you can see the monkey, I've added a flat colour. A little bit of a shadow in there, and the wine. Now here's the wine highlights, super subtle. So you can see on there, and in the wine, there's just a little bit of lighter colour. So again, using the same shade that you had before and using a blending mode or slightly lighter shade. Then the monkey, so I've given him a lot of texture in there. So I've added some lighter brushes, some darker brushes. So I'm almost there, and it's just a few more finishing touches. Gold trim, filled that in, and then I've given gold trim a little bit of a shadow in some areas. So if I take that off again, you can see it's kind of a little flat, especially here where it should be shadowed. So if you add a little bit darker on the side, that works well. Now the hair needs a bit of attention, so that's what's next. So dark hair, added some light hair in. So of course, if I wanted to add a few more, say if my colour is this one, brush, B for brush, and I would just add one or two. Making sure I had that same colour, of course. And finally, that's pretty much my render done. I would add some text. So the theme was, it needed to be like Chinese, and it was a bit of a joke. So this was quite a corporate, straight down the line guy, and they wanted it to be quite cheeky. So he's got a little monkey and a cigarette and a glass of wine. So that's an example of how you might render, and that's the finished piece.